Hi, readers. So this is our lesson 12 for character studies. So by now you should have also listened to Miss Alvarado read chapter 25 so that you can be ready for today because we are actually going to read the last chapter of Winn-Dixie. And so before we get started, I want us to think about our character that we've been focusing on, and that is Opal. And when a reader gets to that climax of the story, which we know we've already reached, where the character really kind of focuses in on that big problem and really tries to solve it and meets it head on. Um, and we know that Opal has done that when she confronted her dad about her mom and how much she missed her mom and how she felt sad that her dad just didn't really talk to her about that. And so once a character reaches that climax in the book, then the character usually starts to resolve or to solve some of those big problems. And so that's usually how a story is wrapped up. So they're solving those big problems. And there's two questions that we need to think about our main character, and we want to think about what strength does the character draw on, and how does the character change from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. Okay, so we want to think about, so what strengths does Opal draw on? So what strengths does she have inside of her that she really uses to help solve her problems? And then how has she changed from the beginning of the story? Okay, so I am going to read the chapter and we'll stop along the way and we'll talk about those things. Are you excited? I'm so excited. Okay, well, and as you know, by listening to chapter 25, we know that thankfully Opal found Winn-Dixie. So turns out that Winn-Dixie was at Gloria's house the whole time, hiding under the bed. And the story that Gloria told her about how they finally discovered that Winn-Dixie was there by sneezing, by hearing that sneeze. Anyways, I was so happy to hear that Winn-Dixie was there and was okay. I'm sure you guys were too. Okay, so chapter 26. Outside, the rain had stopped and the clouds had gone away, and the sky was so clear it seemed like I could see every star ever made. I walked all the way to the back of Gloria Dump's yard. I walked back there and looked at her mistake tree. The bottles were quiet. There wasn't a breeze, so they were just hanging there. I looked at the tree and then I looked up at the sky. Mama, I said, just like she was standing right beside me. I know 10 things about you, and that's not enough. That's not near enough. But Daddy's going to tell me more. I know he will, now that he knows you're not coming back. He misses you, and I miss you, but my heart doesn't feel empty anymore. It's full all the way up. I'll still think about you, I promise, but probably not as much as I did this summer. Wow, this is different, isn't it? Usually Opal talks about her mom, but she's never really talked to her mom. So her mom's not there, of course. But just because someone isn't there, sometimes you still want to talk to them and you just talk to them like they're there. And that seems to be what Opal is doing, right? So we know that she misses her mom so much and she's been so sad about that. But how exciting that she says that her heart is full. I wonder, do you think that's because she's got so many new friends? She's feeling so happy. She has Winn-Dixie. Her dad is talking to her more. I think probably. That's what I said that night underneath Gloria Dump's mistake tree. And after I was done saying it, I stood just staring up at the sky, looking at the constellations and planets. And then I remembered my own tree, the one Gloria had helped me plant. I hadn't looked at it for a long time. I went crawling around on my hands and knees searching for it, and when I found it, I was surprised at how much it had grown. It was still small. It still looked more like a plant than a tree, but the leaves and the branches felt real strong and good and right. And I was down there on my knees when I heard a voice say, "Are you praying?" I looked up. It was Dunlap. No, I said, I'm not praying, I'm thinking. He crossed his arms and looked down at me. What about? He asked. All kinds of different things, I said. I'm sorry that I called you and Stevie bald-headed babies. That's all right, he said. Gloria told me to come out here and get you. I told you she wasn't a witch. I know it, he said. I knew it all along. I was just teasing you. Oh, I said. I looked at him close. It was hard to see him good in the dark yard. Ain't you ever going to stand up? He asked. Yeah, I said. And then he surprised me. He did something I never in a million years thought a Dewberry boy would do. He held out his hand to help me up. And I took it. I let him pull me to my feet. I'll race you back to the house, Dunlap said, and he started to run. Okay, I shouted, but I'm warning you, I'm fast. We ran, and I beat him. I touched the corner of Gloria Dump's house right before he did. You shouldn't be running around in the dark, said Amanda. She was standing over on the porch looking at us. You could trip over something. Ah, Amanda, said Dunlap, and he shook his head. Ah, Amanda, I said too, and then I remembered Carson, and I felt bad for her. I went up on the porch and took hold of her hand and pulled on her. Come on, I said, let's go inside. India Opal, Daddy said when me and Amanda and Dunlap walked in. Are you here to sing some songs with us? Now, before we go any further, I notice that there are two people that Opal was sure she was not going to be friends with in the beginning of the story. And that was Dunlap and Stevie, of course, and Amanda. Remember at the beginning of the story, she didn't like any of those kids. She thought Stevie and Dunlap were annoying and mean, and they kept teasing her and chasing her around. And Amanda, she said she was pinch-faced. But now they seem to be friends, don't they? Do you think that Opal has opened up her heart to be friends with those kids? Seems like it, right? Well, that's definitely a big change in her. Let's keep going. Are you here to sing some songs with us? Yes, sir, I said, only I don't know that many songs. We'll teach you, he said. He smiled at me real big. It was a good thing to see. That's right, said Gloria Dump, we will. Sweetie Pie was still sitting in her lap, but her eyes were closed. Care for a litmus lozenge? Miss Franny asked, passing me the bowl. Thank you, I told her. I took a litmus lozenge and unwrapped it and put it in my mouth. Do you want a pickle? Otis asked, holding up a big jar of pickles. No, thank you, I said. Not right now. Winn-Dixie came out from underneath Gloria Dump's chair. He sat down next to me and leaned into me the same as I was leaning into my daddy. And Amanda stood right there beside me, and when I looked over at her, she didn't look pinch-faced at all to me. Dunlap cracked his knuckles and said, Well, are we going to sing or what? Yeah, Stevie echoed. Are we going to sing or what? Let's sing, said Sweetie Pie, opening her eyes and sitting up straight. Let's sing for the dog. Otis laughed and strummed his guitar, and the flavor of the litmus lozenge opened in my mouth like a flower blooming, all sweet and sad. And then Otis and Gloria and Stevie and Miss Franny and Dunlap and Amanda and Sweetie Pie and my daddy all started to sing. And I listened careful so I could learn it right. And that is the end of Because of Winn-Dixie. That was a happy ending, wasn't it? I like happy endings. Okay, so let's go back to those two questions that we were really trying to focus on. So we know we're trying to focus in on what strength does the character draw on, and how does the character change? So let's talk about the strength that Opal draws on. Now, in the beginning, as we were reading Winn-Dixie, we were really focusing in on the fact that Opal was very big-hearted. And she was willing to be friends with lots and lots of different kinds of people, with grown-ups, with little kids. And so we know that that is a big, big strength of hers. So we also know that she was very courageous. I mean, Opal went through a lot of tough stuff, didn't she? And she really had to use her courage and her big heart to finally do something. And that was to finally let go of her mother and let go of that hope that her mom was coming back. Um, and she also, remember when she talked to her dad as they were searching for Winn-Dixie and it was raining and she got so mad at him? She was able to realize then that her dad really missed her mom too, and that he didn't just let her go. He wanted her back too, and he tried, but she just wasn't coming back. So, we could say that some of the strengths that Opal draws on in her journey are that she draws on her courage and big heart to let her mother go, and that wasn't easy. And she forgives her mom for leaving and accepts that she won't be back, even though that was a really tough thing for her to do, wasn't it? And we know when she was talking under the tree in Gloria's backyard, when she was talking to her mom like she was really there, she was saying basically, it's okay. I know a lot about you and I still want to learn more and I miss you, but my heart is full. So that was a pretty important part. And then finally, we want to focus on how our character changes. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I really like watching makeover shows. I love watching those shows where they have some room or some house and it looks awful. And in the beginning, you see it's all run down and falling apart and looks just terrible. And then all these workers come in and they do all this work and they make it just beautiful. And then at the end, they have a reveal, right? And they show everyone this amazing new house and what it looks like. I love those kind of shows. And so that seems to be something that authors really like to do too. And that is they like to show in the beginning how much our character is struggling so that they can show over the course of the story, wow, look at how much my character has grown. Okay? And that's how it's been with Opal, hasn't it? So in the beginning of the story, we know she was lonely. She had just moved to Naomi. She didn't have any friends. She was living in this old folks trailer park with her dad who doesn't talk much and doesn't open up to her. And she didn't have any friends. It was tough, right? And so we were able to really see how Opal had changed over the course of the whole story. And a couple of really important things were her friendships. And remember, in the beginning of the story, she started making friends, but they were with grown-ups. And having friends that are grown-ups is okay, but kids, what do we need? We need friends that are our age, right? So, as you can see in the story, over the course of the story, Opal began to learn how to make friends that were her own age, even with those kids that she thought at first were like not really her kind, right? She didn't like them. And another important thing is she was able to see the good in kids even if she didn't like them at first. So remember, she didn't like Amanda. She didn't like the Dewberry Boys. Sweetie Pie, Sweetie Pie was okay, but Sweetie Pie's like, what, 5 or 6? She's little. So Opal learned to make friends with kids her own age, and she was able to see the good in those kids even if she didn't like them at first. So a sentence frame that we can kind of use to describe how our character grows, well, actually, I've got 2 for you, is I used to think, but now I think, or the character used to be, but now he or she is. And so what I want you to do is when you're reading your books and you're getting close to the end of your book, I want you to think about how has my character changed and what has helped my character change. And I want you to think about what was my character like at the beginning of the story and what is my character like now towards the end of the story. How is he or she different? Okay, so that's what we're going to be focusing on when we do our activity to show our learning and show how we can apply this to our own reading. Okay? All right, so boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed this wonderful book as much as I did. I always get a little sad when I get to the end of a book because I love it so much and I don't want to let it go. But we have another really awesome book for us to be studying, so you'll be hearing more about that soon. But, anyways, good job and have a great day. Bye, guys.